Hey young world, welcome back. OJ here. This is not on-site draw today. This is going to be real-time draw. Have been working on some stuff, and I did an event last week, and I was talking to this kid, and he was super interested about basically the setup that I had for all the video stuff and the animation stuff, the drawing stuff. I had quite a setup. Anyways, I drew out a very rough map. And so this is basically a sketch that I had drawn in my notebook while explaining to this kid basically what all my setup, right here I got my computer. I have a video switcher with 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras. I have a MIDI controller that's controlling animations over top of the video. And all of that is being projected out into 1, 2 projectors. I had obviously a lot of paper, pens, pencils, markers, mark-making instruments, etc. All of that was going into the computer, and I was controlling it via the video mixer and MIDI controller. And, I got a lot of wild looks from this setup just because it is extremely flexible. And, I'm very proud of how I have this all set up, running things live, Juice Loops live. Anyways, I liked this sketch a lot, and so I figured I wanted to turn this into a real graphic, even just instructional, informational map of my equipment in case I wanted to explain to other people, but to also just have, a playful illustration for Juice Loops. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you a bit of what I got going on here. I normally work on black or very dark gray, just so that the computer screen or the iPad screen or whatever I'm working on doesn't burn out my eyeballs. That if you're looking at a white screen, that's just more light that's coming into your eyes, into your face. Anyways, I normally work on black, and then in this case, I had drawn out in white. I'm going to turn the opacity down on this black just so you could see. I really liked the layout of this, and so I just wanted to clean it up and sharpen it up and have it in layers. I'm doing this in Photoshop, but you could do this in Procreate or Adobe Fresco or a whole bunch of different programs. You could do it. There's always more than one way to do something. I encourage artists not to think about decisions too long, to just really dive in and whatever route you plan on taking to get to wherever you're looking to go, it'll be fine. And we've got this set up. I'm gonna turn the opacity back up so it's just a full black background. Can't see any more of the sketch. The way I have this laid out in here is the main items with no cabling. This is as if everything would be wireless. And however, my situation, that's not the case. Everything is wired. So here's all the cabling, and I actually went ahead of time. I draw everything out. I plan, especially when I'm drawing digitally. That's a huge advantage. One of the huge advantages of working digitally over working on paper is you can layer stuff out, and it's not permanent. Anyways, I draw through the subject matter because I am an animator, and you never know what's going to get animated. So I always fill everything out. As you can see, the edge of the computer here is filled out. It's a full computer. These 2 cables go behind. These 2 cables go in front. But you see that line work coming through. So I already took the time before starting this video to fill in those cables. And so I'm going to actually... all of the black is basically the fills of the cables. This one, I guess, would be a tripod, but that's the way that I have it set up. Cables, cable fills, main players. So from here on out, I'm going to do a main. I usually title everything in caps. That's just my personal style. Main fill. And I like to keep everything separated on layers, especially while I'm building it. You can always save different variations of these files to be used for different things. I like to have this all separated for many reasons, for print reasons, for animation reasons. Those are usually the main two ways that I separate files, is things that are going to be printed, particularly screen printed. Screen printing, block fills, I do a lot of that type of stuff, and it typically works best being screen printed because the color of that solid ink fill will never fade. Anyways, let's get back over here to coloring this. This is where I want to go today. So I'm on the main layer. I'm going to press W, which is magic wand. You can see it here. All of these, everything here is a closed shape. There are no open edges. Like if you look at these chords, a lot of these chords have open ends, and that's because they're interacting with another layer. But this layer, I intentionally filled everything out so it's a solid shape. Everything is closed. So when I select outside of them, wrong layer, main. When I select outside of them, as you can see, it selects outside of all of these shapes. So now what I typically do, select, modify, expand. Right now I have it set to 2 pixels, and I'm going to just go ahead and do that. So now if I zoom in on any of these, you could see the selection just jumped from outside of that to a couple pixels inside. And the reason I did that is because we're now going to hit Shift Apple I and invert that selection. And now deselecting from the main layer and going underneath of it to the main fill layer, I'm going to hit Shift Alt F5. Quite the hotkey. And then this is the foreground color, and I'm just going to hit OK, and it will automatically fill. You could do that a couple different ways. You could do that with the paint bucket. I like doing it where, let me see where it's at under the menu. Edit fill. Edit fill. See, Shift F5 is how I did that with the hotkeys. I didn't mean to confuse anybody. It's already confusing enough. You could see how nice that selection is, though. And so now I have the main fill, main, chords fill, chords. And if I turn this background black all the way up, it just looks like a black and white line drawing again. So now we're going to come in here and actually add some color to this. That was kind of the whole idea. I wanted to do this piece today. It's a digital color fill. Every time I come back to switching colors, I just have a tab right there that I can just use the eyedropper tool and select that color really quickly. I'm going to put this up in the corner. Right now we have, so technically thinking print-wise, this would be 5 colors: white, yellow, orange, blue, black. But we already have the black is the background. There will be black in the image, but then the white is the lines. And so really the yellow, orange, and blue are the colors in here that are going to fill most of this up. And I'm just going to be exploring around. I'm not sure what colors are going to go where exactly yet, but let's hop right in. And part of it, I'm going to actually do orange first. So I always make new layers, but remember that main fill back here? I'll turn the background down a little bit. Just a little bit. It's still going to be dark. Add a new layer above the main fill. Call this main orange. I spell orange with a J. It's kind of my thing. I'm going to hit Apple or Command and then click the icon over this main fill, and it will select that black main fill. Now once again, Shift F5, fill it with the foreground color, which is orange. So now we have that whole area being orange. I'm going to go ahead and leave that selected, and I'm going to go in first and do blue. Select this up here. Grab my brush. So now I still have that selected. I'm on the blue layer, and so now I'm going to use the blue and treat this like a warm side, cool side scenario. So that, like, starting with the edge of the computer, boom, cool side right there. This is where the shade, this is where the shadow would be. I'm going to do that in several more of these places up here. Everything's going to have basically one side be in shade. And you know what? I feel like the lenses of the projectors would be blue. Actually, I feel like they'd be yellow. Psych. Okay. How about the underside of this? I always use blue tape for my paper. Fill these in, MIDI controller, hit the edge. This is just rough details too, by the way. You know, something like this MIDI controller, this video mixer, not meant to be like highly hyper detailed, realistic. I had trouble getting that one out. Anyways, you see this is coming along pretty quick, and so just like even simply everything that I've hit the blue on right now, if the sunlight were coming from all basically the top right corner, everything that I'm hitting right now would be shade. I kind of feel like these stands for these GoPros, shade. Oh yeah, this is the white. That's blue. No. That was my first Apple Z of the day. Apple Z is undo, by the way, in Photoshop and most programs. E is eraser. B is brush. That's what I'm switching between if I even need to erase at all. I'm going to actually go ahead and do these buttons. Blue. Because then we'll be able to... I started with everything being orange, you know. Well, I started with everything being black just to have a selection layer that I could easily hit. And there's also many ways of saving selections. This is not the only way. Clean up those little areas as we go here. You see, having that selection makes it really nice. Makes it basically uses it as a mask, so you can't color outside of that area. So while I could do anything in here, I'm going to undo that. You know, that's the beauty of working digitally. It won't do anything out here. Anyways, let's keep going with this blue. Let's go ahead and just do the keys on the keyboard. Blue. You know, this is meant to be playful. A playful map of my equipment, art and technology. See, there's a little bit right here. A little spillage of the blue around the edge. What needs blue yet? All right, we're going to do one pen, fully blue. Oh, that was the eraser. One pen, fully blue. We're going to do this whole side of the camera blue. This up here. This right here. We're going to do all of these lenses of the GoPro. No, we're going to do the edge. There we go. It's making sense. Hit these couple little areas on the projectors. Fill them in. How about these buttons on the computer? Whew, look at that. This is what happens when you don't zoom in. You'll be missing all kinds of slop. Look at that. Cleanup mode. There's lots of ways to fill in these areas, but for me, for a number of reasons, and my workflow throughout the years has led me to working like this. That's the eraser, which I'm working on a Cintiq screen, Cintiq monitor. And if you flip your Cintiq pen backwards, it's an eraser on the other side. It'll automatically switch to that tool. Cintiq has a lot of really nice workflow stuff about it, but I understand people wanting to use the iPad. I use that too. It is great, not just for Adobe products, but Procreate. It's amazing for everything. It's amazing for just watching YouTube and Netflix. The portability, the cordless ability, the cleanliness. I mean, the iPad is hard to beat, but also Wacom Cintiq is hard to beat when you're in a studio type situation. The one that I'm working on right now is actually a portable, quote unquote, portable one, but see, this is shaping up already. It's like sunny side, shady side, cold side of the mountain. All right, let's get the yellow layer going. I'm trying to get this done relatively quickly. You know, we are recording this in real time on Real Time Draw. Let's just start by filling in this screen. Oh, psych. If you hit Option, if you hold Option while hovering over a color, it'll give you the eyedropper tool. And so, see, this is actually filling in these just bulk color fills with the white line work. It gives it a whole nother look now because it's not that high contrast black fill that it was before when we started. See, this looks totally different now, just adding that one square of yellow. One camera live. We'll call it camera 3. We're going to do 2 loops over here on the MIDI live. Fill in that one. Fill in this one. Those will be 2 loops running simultaneously. Make sure you're on the correct layer. Make sure you're not, you want to have all of these color layers separated. There we got the orange fill, the blue, the yellow. This is, in a way, is coming together the way that a screen printed t-shirt would be printed, which, could at some point be a possibility for a graphic like this. The beauty of digital is it's flexible and duplicatable in so many variations. So it's like you can save as many variations as you want, like whether it be on your computer, or external hard drive, external storage, whatever. Do we do? Yeah, probably lenses. This doesn't have to be anything like crazy accurate. It's playful. Stylized. All right. These lenses up here and the projectors definitely got to be illuminated. They're the ones. They're the real stars of this show. Hit the top of this camera. Having everything on one single color layer like this allows me to just make these decisions and just get them done quickly. Fill this area in. Just having color balance. And look, like the quicker you pick where the color is going to go without thinking too much about it or making it too realistic, like it just stylizes it that much more. All right, let's go to the chords. Let's change these chords from black to blue. Keep that black layer, but like I said, Apple, click the thumbnail on that chords fill layer. Now here we are, one layer above it, fresh, clean layer. That's going to be Quartz Fill Blue. Make sure I got that proper blue selected. Shift F5. And there we go. Sometimes I work like a hurricane, tornado in the files or in the layering, not naming anything, just working, getting the creative done out here on the canvas. But every once in a while, you got to stop and reset and readjust and organize your layers and delete layers you're not using and group layers, which that's a huge one. So as you see, a lot of these are in a group right now. If I wanted to take everything here, put it in a group, select the first one, hold shift, select the last one, and then Command G will put everything in its own, in one big group. I have the swatch up here that I have turned off. This is all the layers of the artwork. I have the black background, and then I have the original rough sketch from the notebook that, as you can see, with these layers, starting to come along rather nicely. Command click, Quartz Blue. Just use white. I want these accents out here to just be solid white. And then I realized that these ones over here, I never actually filled in at all. And so we're just going to draw those straight in there. The more you work digitally as opposed to on paper, the more that you'll get into your own workflow when it comes to the layering and whatnot. From here on out, we're going to be doing some tests. Brushes window. There's a brush in here that I like using a lot. Kyle's Ultimate Pastel Palooza. You see that rough, untethered edge. As with any of your artwork, you can get fixated on any of the small details, but ultimately, you're chasing good results of the whole. Having a bunch of different ideas that you think are going to work don't always necessarily work well together. And so, especially with digitally, you have the room to experiment and be flexible and figure out what is going to work best for the end. And this video is going to be one session of this drawing. Obviously, when I did the original sketch, that was a very quick, loose session of me talking and explaining to a kid. The second session was me cleaning it up and doing the line work. What you're witnessing, technically, I suppose, would be the third session, the colorizing, and having it separated and organized and prepped, flexible, ready for print, ready for animation, ready for anything. Juice Loop's live, baby. Of course, my voice cracked on that. Ready for anything. Juice Loop's live, baby. This is going to be essentially emulating video editors. This would be the preview monitor. This would be libraries window up here. Click, 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 click. And then, of course, essential. Down here, we got the timeline, baby. Building blocks. Shout out Eric. He's on a building blocks tour right now. Which, ironically, I don't know if you've ever put that together, but when you're making animations or music or anything that's a digital workspace, you're moving blocks, digital building blocks. Quartz, blue, fill, right there. I have a clean layer above it. I've got black selected. Using that rougher brush, I'm going to come through here, and as you can see, this is going to hide some of my imperfections. Almost a shadow. We'll see how it looks. It might work, it might not. Like I said, you're out here having ideas, theories, stuff that might work. But really, you're just experimenting. Tedious parts of illustration, but this is actually the part. It's funny because sometimes you could think about something for so long, but really this part right here, the actual building, the actual touching, getting your hands dirty, this is the part that becomes meditative. This is where the art actually takes shape. Try to just eat up a little bit of that blue. Alright, I'm going to hit these ones up here. Same style. You got to always think about where the light source be coming from. And sometimes this has to follow those rules, and sometimes not. Filling in these areas, sorry. It's hard to talk the entire time. Sometimes, normally when you be drawing, it's like you're not talking, or you might even be listening to music. Listening to something, the songs of the streets. Okay, overall, I think that helps the cabling for sure. Yeah, I suppose we probably should do some highlights. We should probably do a little over here too. This thing is kind of fat. Alternating edges and whatnot. Keeping your layers organized and in the correct order is very important. And making sure that you're switching properly between your layers so that you don't continue on and then you just worked over top of a whole layer that you wanted or needed or whatever. Oh yeah, this is going to be very nice. Just some highlights in here. This will really make certain, like, for example, none of the cabling is going to get any highlights. Highlights are for what you want brought to attention, not what you want to just kind of fall backwards in space and be loosely ignored. See, the screen would be glowing, and so it's like, let's give the screen a little soft edge on both sides, just so it feels like it's glowing. Stylized, of course. I'm going to zoom out. This might be great. This might be the best thing I've ever done. Actually, yeah, that does give it a nice little glow. The PJs. Gotta be glowing up here. That's where. Oh, yeah. This is a test. Some little outward rays here. Oh yeah. And see, I can turn these off if I don't like them. I can turn down the opacity a bit, which actually for something like a glow effect works really well. I think that's okay for now. I'm going to leave it in there for now. What do you say? Even though I want to add a highlight on the top edge of these two projectors, I feel like because we have the shadow on this edge right here, and this corner would be essentially the closest in space to us, It's going to add contrast by being by the darkness. And then this corner being highlighted, essentially make it feel like it's closest in space to us. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Hit both of these corners. There we go. Now let's see it. Fill out some stuff on the MIDI. Hit that top edge. I'm going to come back over to add a subtle highlight on that edge right there. Switch back to black. The lens shadows. Add a little one right here. Since that front corner be in the shade the most. None of this has to be perfect, by the way. Like loose rules of thumb. And then mistakes unintentionally stylize it. And I don't consider any of this to be a mistake for me yet. Juice loops. And as you can see, I've run out of space here. But because I put this on its own layer, which was an intentional move, I can very carefully place it how I like. And I'm going to fill out some of these letters a bit more, so it's a bit more consistent and readable, legible. What would you call this, a tech map? Add the live down here. There we go. You know what? This is pretty much donezo. At least for now. I don't want to I could whittle away at this literally forever. At least if I return to this, I have all the layers built out or loosely organized. You know, I could take this, turn it into a print file, turn it into an animation file, use it for myself, use it for other things. It's definitely going to be a Juice Loops file. I think I'll probably add some text to this at some point, but you get the idea. You know, I'm OJ. This is Juice Loops Live. I appreciate you watching. The rest of this year, I have a lot of good things coming up, and next year, I definitely got a lot of good stuff coming up. So, thank you per usual. I know this one's a little longer, but that's how we're going to do it today. Thank you for watching. I'm OJ, Juice Loops Live. Catch me next time. Thank you. Bye. Rauha Banani. Finish for Chill Hippie. Shout out Yuka.